Hi everyone, in this lesson we're going to be coding some advanced features of the timer app. And just like the last lesson, you have two options. You can either one, stick with me in this video, or you can just scroll down and see the different challenges. And then for each challenge, there's a hint to give you some hints in case you need help, or you can even see the answer if you'd like as well. We're going to be starting here. And the first thing we're going to be doing is we're going to be adding minutes and seconds to our timer app so that the user could put in like 5 minutes and 5 seconds and it will count down from 5 minutes and 5 seconds. So let's go ahead and get started with that. The first thing that I need to do is I need to adjust my layout because right now I only have a place for seconds. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add in a row, and I'm going to throw that row in right here in the middle. Great, and now I'm going to put this text input inside of it. Now the text input is way too big. So I'm going to change the size and I'm going to make the font be about half of what it is right now, so about 50. And now I need another text input. So just to make my life easier, I'm going to make this one called the seconds input. And I'm going to add in another text input, and I'm going to call this one the minutes input. And I'm going to make this one also be about 50. Great. Now the last thing I want to do is I need to make sure the width is correctly, because right now if I preview it, you'll see that it doesn't quite fit correctly. So if I look at the width of my text input, I can see it's at 80%. Well, if I have two objects and they're going to be sharing 100% of the screen, I want each one to be about 50%. So I'm going to put 50% here for the first one and then 50% for the width for the second one. That way they'll show up nice. The other thing I want to do is I want to change the hint. I want the hint to tell the user what they should type in. So for example, on the right hand side, I'm going to make it say seconds, and on the left hand, or seconds, and on the left hand side, I'm going to make it say minutes. And let's see what it looks like. Sweet, so it's a little long, so I'm just going to shorten it and make it say sex, S-E-C, and min for minutes. And that way we've got a good looking layout. Great. Now the next thing we need to do is we need to figure out how are we going to calculate this? Well, let's break it down first. We need to convert minutes into seconds, and then we need to combine our minutes with the seconds that the user provided. For example, if the user put in 1 minute, we need the app to convert 1 to 60 because it's 60 seconds. And let's say the user put in 5 seconds. We need to add 60 to the 5 seconds that the user put in. So we're going to be doing this by holding all of this data inside of the label time. We could create a variable and call it total, but because we have this label here that's doing all the work, we're going to cut out a step, which will make our app run a little bit more efficiently. So let's break it down and let's do it. So in the blocks here, when the user clicks the start button, we need to grab what's in the minutes input and we need to convert it to seconds and put that inside the label. So right here, we already have set label text. So let's grab a new one. Let's set the label text to whatever they put in the minutes spot and multiply it by 60. So let's go and grab a multiplication, and we're going to multiply it by 60, and we're going to get whatever they put in the minutes spot. Now the next thing we need to do is we need to say, hey, now we need you to add onto that whatever they put in the second spot. So I will just grab a plus symbol here. So we're going to set label time first to whatever was in the minutes times 60. Then we're going to set label time to adding seconds. Adding to what? We're adding to whatever was in the label time. So I'm going to go grab the label time, and I'm going to get the text. Then we're going to set the seconds input visible to false, the timer labeled to true, but we also have the minutes label, right? The minutes input label. So we're going to duplicate the second input label, put it in and change it to the minutes input and also make that false. And then we should have the timer start. Let's see if this works. So I'm going to hit live test, and I'm going to grab 1 minute and 1 second, and it should show 61 seconds. Hey, it shows 61 seconds. So that works. Not bad. So let's check one more thing. If I type in 5 seconds here, we get this error, nan. And if I typed in 5 minutes here and nothing in seconds, we also get this error. So what's the problem? Well, our app doesn't know how to add nothing to something. You're like, what? Well, if we don't type anything in, there's nothing in there. So our app doesn't know the difference what to do with nothing. It can't add 5 to nothing because it doesn't see nothing as 0. So what we want to tell our app to do is if there's nothing in there, we want to set the text input to 0. That way we can add 0 to whatever the number is. So let's go ahead and do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab an if statement, and let's do the minutes first. I'm going to say if the minutes is equal to 0, right? Now in Thunkable, there's 2 ways to say nothing, and I'm going to show you. So let's start off with if our minutes is equal to 0. Now, since there's 2 ways to show nothing, what we're going to do is we're going to use the OR statement. So I'm going to go to logic and grab an OR statement. And an OR statement pretty much says, if this happens or this happens, then do what's below it. So I'm going to say, all right, if the text input text is equal to nothing. And if I just go to the text, I can grab like this empty block. Now the other way that you can say nothing is to say if that text is equal to null. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy this. I'm going to bring it over here. And I'm going to change this empty block for null. And I just use backspace to erase blocks. There we go. So if it's equal to nothing or null, or if I'm going to go ahead and tell it to set the minutes text input to 5. I'm sorry, to 0. Great. Now I need to do the same exact thing for the seconds text input. So let's do that. But this time I'm going to say if the seconds text input is equal to nothing or null, then set it to nothing. Cool. Let's go ahead and give this a shot. So I'm going to hit live test here, and I'm only going to put in some time in their seconds. Hey, it works. And if I erase this and put only 10 minutes on here, we should only see 600. Hey, it works. Perfect. So now our next challenge is our alarm screen. We want to have an alarm screen that toggles like this. So what we're going to do is we're going to need another timer, and that timer is going to say, hey, if it's red, turn it to white. If it's not red, turn it to white. Or turn it to red. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to first add another timer, and I'm going to call this timer color timer. Now, how often do we want this timer interval to go off? 1 second is a little slow, so I'm going to go half a second, which is going to be under milliseconds. I'm going to put 500 milliseconds. And I'm also going to tell this thing to loop because I want it to keep going over and over again. The next thing I need to think about is when do I want this to happen? Well, I want it to happen when the timer goes off or when the timer is equal to 0. So I'm going to go and find the spot where when the timer is equal to 0, which is right over here. And I'm going to tell timer 2 to turn on, which is called my color timer. Color. So I'm going to tell it to turn on. Now the next thing that I'm going to do is in the second screen, I'm going to tell it what to do when it fires. So I'm going to say, all right, color timer, when you fire, I want you to grab this red color, right? Grab this red color right here. And if it's red, turn it to white. If it's not red, turn it to red. Now the key thing here is you want to make sure you're choosing the exact same color, right? It's very important, or if not, this won't work. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So I'm going to go to my blocks, and I'm going to say, all right, when the color component, I want it to say if the current screen color is equal to red, then I'm going to say I want it to change the background color to white. And if it isn't red, let's change it to red. I believe that's a different red. I think that's the same red as the screen. All right, let's give this a shot. The other thing that we want to do is we want to turn off this timer when they flip the switch, right? So let's go to timer, color timer, and let's make this stop when they flip the switch. Let's see if this works. So I'm going to put in, oh, it automatically went there. Let's go ahead and move it over to the screen 1. Let's put in 2 seconds here so that it goes to our timer. And it's changing to white. Now here's the problem here. Our stop alarm text color is white too, so it's white on white, so we don't see it. So let's go ahead and just change our text color here from white to black, so that way we can see it. And let's go to our screen 1, test this, 2 seconds. And now it switches. Cool. And if you flip the switch, it stops. Great. Now, that is it for the very basic advanced challenges. But if you wanted to bring this up to the next level, there's 2 more challenges that you can do. The first challenge is to make it so that when the timer starts, there's a pause button that appears, or you convert the timer start button to a pause button. And then that way the user can pause the timer if they need to. The other thing that you can do is make this one tiny little timer app into a clock app. So you can add a start screen, then you could ask the user, do you want to go to the timer or to the stopwatch? And then you create a stopwatch screen and a whole entire stopwatch for the user to use as well. Up to you, but those are 2 great advanced challenges for you if you'd like to do them. And the last thing that you have to do to complete this course is add this project to your portfolio. You worked really hard on it. It's not very easy to build. Show off all your hard work on your portfolio. And in the next unit, we're going to build a game. So I highly recommend that you go ahead and jump into the next course so that you can build a game with us. And I'll see you there for a lot of fun.